Hello, my Bill 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another Maverick Files. This one is titled The Skin Suit Case. Now, if this is the same skin suit that I don't know how many skin suits there is out there, but if this is the same one, I believe we've done one like this on that chapter, maybe a Mr. Ball, and maybe even a coffee house. Hell, I don't fucking know. But I always love hearing things from, the different storytellers. So let's go ahead, get into it. Go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cup with someone special. Let's get creeped the fuck out, bro.
It is January 6th, 1999. You are Miroslav, and you and your team have been commissioned to transfer cargo on the Vistula, Poland's longest river at over 600 miles, or over 1,000 kilometers long. Well, at least you attempt to transfer cargo. But soon, your tugboat, the Elk, stops. You discuss with your colleagues what could be causing the sudden halt, before mutually deciding that some sort of garbage got caught up in the Elk's propeller. Expecting to find debris like a loose tire or mayhaps a tree branch, you look down, and instead, you are met with something gray and rubberish, and it is wrapped around your propeller. You find it's hard to describe what it looks like. Its color is a pale gray, and it seems like a sack or a bag. You and your crew begin to pull out this rubber material as it slowly begins to unravel from the blades.
Nope.
And that is when you are hit with two sudden factors.
I would all of a sudden mysteriously come down with like some form of illness and nope, I'm out.
The first being the smell that wafts up into your nose as your eyes tear and you gag. Whatever this is, it smells of rot. The second factor being
human ear
the
required.
human ear attached to the sack. You have just discovered the remains
That's a dead fucking giveaway right there. When there's an ear attached to it, that's a person.
of 23-year-old
Or at least something with an ear.
Katarzyna Zawada. This pale rubber material would be her skin, detached from her body. At first, due to the dreadful state of the DNA, it was difficult for the forensic team to even identify what exactly happened to Katarzyna. The propeller was temporarily blamed for possibly damaging a body and removing its skin, but that was soon dismissed because it was revealed that the skin of Katarzyna had long been removed from her body before ever being tossed into the river. The coroner would inspect this suit of DNA, where they would find that the skin was cut neatly, starting at the thighs and reaching above her neck, where it stopped after her left ear. Her face, her arms, and her nipples were not included in the skinning. An oblique seam would travel from under her right chest to her left shoulder, creating a grotesque, wearable suit, implying that whoever did this went on to wear her skin around their body.
Oh, no, bro.
Lastly, the coroner would discover one last harrowing detail. Katarzyna was still alive during the time that her skin was being removed. It wouldn't be long until other fragments of her DNA would begin to appear in the Vistula. Pieces of her sweater would be found near the scene where her skin was first discovered. A leg would appear near a hydroelectric dam, and, while seeming intact, bits of the leg were missing. Scraps of her clothes would be found as well, pieces of her jeans, and a square cloth which was cut from a flannel shirt. No other remains of her body would be found afterwards. This investigation would be titled as Codename Skoda, roughly translated to the skin case. Now, let's rewind the clocks a bit. It's November 12th, 1998. You are Katarzyna's mother. Your daughter has been showing signs of growing depressive symptoms, which have escalated due to your late husband's passing just 2 years ago. Katarzyna isn't taking the grief of losing her father well, and has even attempted to take her life. Trying to help your daughter juggle with her mental health, the loss of her father, and the burden of the responsibilities of college. You decide to begin assisting her by spending time with her at a psychiatric center in Nova Huta. They have been treating Katarzyna's depression for a little while now, so today was going to be like any other day to you. Except, Katarzyna never arrives.
Uh-oh.
You fight off your anxious thoughts. Maybe she's just stuck in class or hanging out with friends and she just lost time. Her friends,
Maybe.
the few that she has, had said that she's been
Maybe.
too withdrawn lately, so maybe time with friends could help. Or she's taking a test, or studying. Lord knows she's already changed her field of study twice now. Poor girl must be overwhelmed with classwork. Little do you know, but Katarzyna had been skipping class for weeks by this point. Hours begin to pass, and still, no sign of Katarzyna. Enough is enough, you think to yourself, and you rush down to the police department to file a missing persons report. The police delay your request, telling you to wait another 24 hours before finally submitting a missing persons report.
I hate that shit.
2 months later, the police arrive at your door. Parts of your daughter have been found. The hunt for the monster begins.
It's fucking awful to be that parent. I don't
A
think
psych
any
profile
parents should ever
would be
have to bury their
established,
children.
stating that the killer was a sadist, enjoying the harassment of women, and may likely be a prior convict. The damage done to the body prior to the skinning was precise and calculated, leading investigators to believe the murderer was trained in a form of martial combat. As a result of the studies, it was determined that the unfortunate 23-year-old student was beaten first. Then her neck, armpits, and groin were cut with a knife, and her organs were removed. Then, her skin was flayed, and she would go on to die from blood loss. Disturbingly and ironically enough, in May 1999, or just a few months after Katarzyna's DNA was discovered, another corpse would be found. The forensic medicine unit in Krakow would begin to study an elderly man's body, one of which was missing a head. Later, the man's head would be found missing the skin on its face. An arrest would be made against Vladimir W., as he was spotted moments prior wearing the man's face as a mask.
What the
The
fuck?
victim would soon be discovered to be Vladimir's own father, and it is believed that he wore the mask in front of his grandfather, toying with the man, pretending he was his son. Vladimir would be taken in and interrogated, heavily suspected to be Katarzyna's murderer. The story simply wrote itself. 2 vile acts of dismembering, flaying, and wearing the skin of a victim within just a few months apart. Not to mention that Katarzyna and Vladimir both attended the very same college. Close the case and
Red
seal the
flags.
books. We're done here.
Yep.
Except, there was zero evidence to prove that he had any relation towards the death of Katarzyna. Still though, he murdered his father and wore his face, so to prison he went. This means that the case of Katarzyna remained unsolved. In 2000, a Polish article would state that biological traces not belonging to the victim would be found on Katarzyna's skin, but the DNA resulted in no matches to any suspects or previous criminals. After this bombshell, the investigation would officially be dropped. No additional evidence nor suspected perpetrators were named. There would be lots of blame pointed at the film Silence of the Lambs, due to the eerie similarity between the murderers and the antagonists in the movie, stating that the fictional movie created these monsters in real life. And despite the desperate media attention, these claims provided no assistance towards finding any additional information. While the investigators had dropped the case, the local police department still trekked on with this file, going as far as attempting to hire a clairvoyant to aid their search.
Really?
There does not seem to be any information on what the clairvoyant had attempted, but it's safe to say that nothing came from their assistance. With only previous criminal statistics being their source of help, the previous psych profile would be updated.
That's fucking hilarious.
This monster would now be described as so. narcissistic personality disorder, sexually disturbed, potential motive for murder, age 22 to 35, a social recluse. From studying their cuts and bodily adjustments, their profession could be a butcher, gravedigger, surgeon, veterinarian, tailor, or upholster, with the possibility of being a hunter or angler as a hobby.
That's a lot of fucking
Creating
people.
a suit from female skin may satisfy the need for a gender change, identity and gender dysmorphia, necrophilia, and or necrosadism. Before the crime,
That's a lot
the
of
victim
shit.
and the killer knew each other, which the killer would use the victim's trust to carry out the attack. To build a relationship, they would potentially use knowledge about the interests and passion of the victim. Many attempts of evaluating this case were made, all with outlandish claims. The movie Silence of the Lambs would be evaluated, theorizing that perhaps the killer wanted to live out the fantasy of being Buffalo Bill.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Establishing how both the murderer and the movie character both skinned their victims before tossing their remains into the water. Another evaluation claims the possibility that, perhaps,
That has to be the one line out of that movie that is remembered by fucking everyone. It rubs the lotion on the skin. It probably also didn't help that, Joe Dirt.
this was a mutual sacrifice, using Katarzyna's depression and suicide attempt
Fucking Joe Dirt.
as the root of this theory. There's also the harrowing theory that the murderer did not attack Katarzyna as a personal vendetta, but simply because she was a woman. But not for her gender, but rather to become her gender. This theory bases itself off of the, at the time, psychological research, emphasizing on the fact that her torso and groin remained mostly intact, but her head was removed. Identity is placed in the face, being the location that expresses the emotions and characteristics of a person. So, perhaps the murderer wanted only to keep the physicality of the gender. The skin did contain the victim's neck, possibly made to hide the murderer's Adam's apple, and the rest provided them with the torso and the groin of a woman. Again, this is all based off of the early 2000s police and psych department records, and was only used as a possible evaluation. The professional with which this man brought his skin from the girl points to a doctor, a medical student, or an employee of a slaughterhouse. The fact that, after the woman's disappearance, no one noticed a suspicious type hanging on the Vistula River, and yet the remains were caught from it, indicates that we are dealing with a person associated with the river. Most likely, a regular of coastal areas, whose presence does not surprise anyone, or a complete recluse that is only running on well-known trails. From the police and information collected by us, it appears that Katarzyna was his accidental victim. Oh, she went out for a walk just at the time when the killer decided to hunt.
No.
With these evaluations publicly listed, articles began to create their own minority report, which shared some alternative concepts compared to the original police psych file.
Oh.
The minority report states, a man of 35 to 50 years old, average body structure, approximately 175 centimeters tall. This is based off of Katarzyna's approximate height, seeing that the outfit would have to fit him. A divorcee, no longer living with his family, suffering from gender dysmorphia, who has then been rejected or resigned from a gender reassignment program, probably originally looking for a simpler way to change his situation. A person functioning with schizophrenic personality traits, noticeable quirks visible in behavior and way of thinking. A loner, secrecy, mistrust, and a lack of close friends. Preserved basic social skills, as in he had to conduct conversations with Katarzyna and appeal to emotions in them. The sense of harm and misunderstanding by the world. Lack of care also manifested in other areas of their life. Precise to imitate, a fascination with the film Silence of the Lambs. Again, this movie seemed to play a large role in the media at the time.
Right.
Early access to the internet.
Hey, man, everyone wants to blame TV, movies, and video games. Man, I watch TV, I watched movies, and I played video games. And I ain't never killed no one that I know of.
openness to new technologies, to search for information about your condition. Probably not very high socioeconomic status. Homeowner, or at least owns a space with a secluded, heated, and illuminated room to carry out the skin photo process, but also possibly to look in a mirror and wear the suit with potential other clothing. Despite the abundance of theories, reports, and ideas, Katarzyna's case would remain closed for over a decade. There would be a reopening in 2012 where a forensic team would locate the DNA of a very specific plant, one which would potentially identify a different biome where Katarzyna was presumably taken from or held in.
Okay. Or maybe the
It is
killer
now
was from
October 4th, 2017. It has been 19 years since the murder. You are 52-year-old Robert Yanchevsky, and this case holds close to you because you were a listed suspect back when it all happened. But you managed to free yourself from that mess. You moved on, got yourself a job as a zoologist at the Krakow Institute for Zoology, where you learned animal anatomy and the process of skinning animals. You would, however, eventually be fired due to the majority of the animals on your shift mysteriously dying. You are the only one who knows what happened to the rabbits and mice, but you decided to simply accept the firing and look for another job. A professor who worked alongside you would actually attempt to defend you, but you've already moved on, which was difficult because you also have a record of harassing women, and the animal situation probably isn't being handled well, but that's all over now. You have a different job, working at a hospital for military and religious services. So, why is it that the police are kicking down your apartment door and rushing in? Turns out, a close friend of yours had submitted a letter to the police identifying you as the murderer of Katarzyna Zawada. During their search, the police would discover blood inside of your bath frame, and they decided that was all they needed to bring you in. You would play your card of state.
I love the fact they had to go in and clarify that for people. They didn't just walk in and see it. They actually had to tear it apart a little bit. Oh, I get you, bud.
That you never met Katarzyna, and that you have no clue who she is. But it's too late. Whatever was in that letter had already sealed your fate, and the police just needed any form of evidence to bring you in. From here on out, everything involving Robert Yanchevsky would be kept a secret. His interrogation, his arrest, his trials, everything would be hidden from the public. Robert was charged with aggravated murder with particular cruelty, and as of September 14th, 2022, Robert would be sentenced to life in prison for the 1998 murder of student Katarzyna Zawada.
Hell yeah. All right. I really enjoyed today's video. If I can remember, I will try to link the other video that we've done about the same story. If I remember, don't quote me. I don't remember. I have ADHD and ADD, and I don't remember things good. I'll try though. I got a piece of paper I write things down on, but also like I said, my hands have been broken before. I can't read my writing all that well. I write worse than doctors do. All right, I really enjoyed today's video. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And while you're down there going over, hit that subscribe button, become part of the Bill 5000 Nation. We do some crazy shit here. If you want to know when that crazy shit happens, ding that bell. It might work for you. It might not, but it might work for you. And if you're one of those people it might work for, jump in on one of my premieres, get over in the live chat and be like, hey, Bill, you dinged me. Leave a like and dip. That's all I ask. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Man, People just wearing people and shit. What the fuck? Go get you a fucking jacket, bruh.